What's going on YouTube? How's it going? Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the bot lane tier list. We'll be going through the AD carry and the support role, telling you what the best combos are, looking at a bit more in depth and explaining each champion and why they are in their certain tiers. If you enjoy this sort of content, make sure you sub to the channel. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and comment down below what you would change and what you guys want to see next. But without further ado, let's head straight into it. Few couple of changes since the last tier list that I did. I think it was 2.2C. I did the last tier list. Our first is Kai'Sa. Now, Kai'Sa is by far the best AD carry out there at the moment. Ezreal got nerfed a little bit. I'll talk to him about him in a bit. But Kai'Sa just does insane damage output. You still go for the same build. BF Sword, Executioner's Calling, Longsword. You get your Q upgrade before First Dragon. It's really, really insanely strong. Really, really powerful. And you just become an absolute beast, basically. Especially when you get like 2 or 3 items as well. You get the Blade Ring King. You get the Infinity Edge. You get the Runa's Hurricane. It's insane how much damage she can do, and she's really, really safe as well with her ultimate, with her going invisible as well from her third ability is really, really nice. So yeah, Kai'Sa, by far the best AD carry out there for sure. Moving on down to S+, we have Ezreal. Now Ezreal got nerfed quite a bit in the last patch, not him indirectly, but in terms of the runes and the items around him. Trinity Force got nerfed, the attack speed got nerfed, the Champion got nerfed, which is a rune he normally run, and Regeneration got nerfed. Now, these 3 are not really as much of a big impact on Ezreal, probably bigger impact on many other champions. But Ezreal still got hit by it. He's still not as good as what he was in the previous patch. But he's still up there as one of the best AD carries. I just think he's not as good as Xayah now. Not Xayah. He's not as good as Kai'Sa now, sorry. He's just probably on the same level as Xayah at the moment, but still really, really strong. If you can get your 3 items with Ezreal, it'll still be really, really powerful. Your Mana Immune, your Trinity Force, your Blade Ring King, pretty much unkillable. And pretty much the same with Xayah, really. Xayah really hasn't really been changed at all. She's been slowly creeping up the tier list every single patch because other champions are getting nerfed and she's getting buffed, obviously. She got a W cooldown decrease. I think it was a few patches ago now. But really, really nice to play, to be fair. Really nice champion. Obviously, one of my favorite champions, as some of you guys seen. Really, really safe in terms of, you know, her ultimate. She's able to use her feathers really, really well. You get a lot of auto attack damage. You mainly focus on the auto attacks with her. And yeah, she's just a really, really strong champion overall. So that's why I've put these 3 in the tiers that I have done. Moving on down to S tier, we have Jinx. Jinx is a decent solo queue champion, but can also do well in terms of duo if you want to play duo queue with a support. If you have like a Lulu or a Janna or a Nami or anyone like that, Lulu honestly moves up to here, probably even up here. If you survive the early game and if you get a few items with Jinx, she becomes really, really strong and really, really powerful. So it's nice to see her still up there. I still really like to play her. She's still really fun to play. Varus has been going up the tier lists every single patch as well, kind of similar to Xayah. Varus at first, before he got buffed a few times, I tried him out, this lethality build that's been going around for quite a while now. And I was thinking, like, I don't really see the point. I don't really see the damage. But I realized that, you know, after a while, after practicing him a little bit and playing him a bit on streams, he's actually really, really powerful. His ultimate is probably one of the best ultimates in terms of dragon fight control. If you use your ultimate around the dragon pit, it basically works as a zoning tool. So the enemy champions can't really go into the same area that you ultimate, or they're just going to spread and they're just going to get rooted as well. His ultimate has a really low cooldown. You do a lot of poke damage. You're really, really safe during laning phase as well. It's just a really, really nice champion to play, to be fair. Probably not the best in terms of being able to solo carry a game. You might be able to if you can stay back and if you can poke damage and if you can get ahead. But he's still really, really strong, really, really powerful, and can definitely help his team out in terms of, you know, crowd controlling and getting them kills off, especially in the team fights. Moving on to Corki. Now with Corki, kind of similar to Ezreal in a way. Obviously got nerfed a little bit with the Trinity Force, but it wasn't too bad. But SEA is still playing him quite a lot. And kind of same thing with Ezreal and Zyra as well, really, with Corki, is that he's super safe to play, but he kind of needs a few items under his belt to be really powerful. You kind of need the Manimune, the Trinity Force, and the Static Shiv to be really, really strong. Early game, he's super safe, though. He's super easy to play. You also got the package as well. The package, when you go back to base, if you pick up the package, it allows your Valkyrie to do this huge, massive, spread-wide Valkyrie, which can kind of spread across the whole team in a dragon fight and can really change a team fight. So make sure you utilize that when you can, obviously, during team fights. But overall, still really, really strong champion. Still better than, I would say, any of the champions below him. But not as good, I would say, as Varus, Jinx, Zyra, and everything. So that's why it's kind of sitting in the middle of the pack at the moment. Kind of on the brink of S tier, but also like high A tier as well. Moving on down to A tier, we have Jhin and Draven. Jhin is still a relatively decent champion, obviously one of my favourite champions to play, but he's just been hit by so many nerfs, and he hasn't actually been buffed at all recently, but he's still really, really good champion. He's more of a utility-based champion that uses his long range and his roots to be able to help his team out and to help them kill the enemy team. But he still could do a lot of damage. The full crit build with Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon, Phantom Dancer, everything like that is still really, really strong. Draven, on the other hand, he's really, really good, but he's really, really hard to play. Honestly, if you master Draven, he's probably S, maybe even S plus tier. But for me, he's down to A tier as just a standard solo queue pick. You really need to understand how he works, especially with catching his axes, with being able to, you know, dish out a lot of damage, and making sure you know where to go during team fights and everything as well. So you need to make sure that you master him, basically. He's just really hard to play if you're just going to pick him up at the start. But yeah. He's still really, really good, though. He's one of my worst champions, I would say. I'm not really good at him, but he's still really fun to play. Moving on down, Tristana and Vayne. Now, both of these champions work really, really well. Kind of similar to Jinx with like a Lulu or a Janna or a Nami to kind of enchant them and to make them even stronger. But both of these are super late game champions. You can't really do that much in terms of the early game, in terms of early game dragon fights or anything. So, and the thing is with solo queue, the game is so much based on the first dragon fight. I hate to say that, but it kind of is, because it seems like kind of people give up in a way if they lose first dragon, or they don't really know how to play around being behind in the game. So you kind of just need to farm up, and you need to make sure that you obviously scale up into obviously the mid and late game, especially with these two champions. But with Lulu, they could both probably move up here, to be fair, but they keep down there as a solo queue pick for the B tier, because it's kind of hard to carry with them unless you can go into like the mid and the late game. C tier, Misfortune, Ashe, both of these champions just don't really do that much, to be fair. Both of these champions are just completely useless, in my opinion. Misfortune was strong, obviously, a few patches ago. Quite a while ago, actually. I say a few patches ago, it's quite a while ago. Before she got that huge, massive nerf, her items got nerfed and everything as well. And she's really hard to play against assassins, which are really, really heavy in the meta at the moment. But overall, she's not really that great. She doesn't really dish out a lot of damage, and she's kind of solely focused on just standing still and just solely focusing on just kind of team fight damage. But obviously, not a lot of that happens at the moment in terms of like the assassins and everything. You can just get jumped on and just get one shot, so it's kind of scary. Ashe as well, the same. She just does do a lot of damage. So she's a utility-based AD carry with her ultimate, but she does do a lot of damage. She doesn't really offer much. She does have a lot of crowd control, but it doesn't really help her in terms of being able to solo carry. So that's why these two are at the bottom. Now, moving on to support. Now, obviously, with support, I don't know too much about support, but obviously I do play in the bot lane. I did play support in PC League. So I understand how these champions work, and I understand, you know, what's good with them, what's bad with them, etc. But yeah, moving forward, S plus tier, it has to be Braum. Braum is just insanely busted at the moment. This champion is just completely broken. Especially with Janna being nerfed as well. That's why she's moved down the tier list for me. With her W damage being nerfed. The one way to counter, or I say counter Braum, it's not really a counter, but one way you can kind of take advantage of Braum is to be aggressive in lane and kind of poke enemies out in, poke the Braum out in lane. But with Janna being obviously nerfed, her W damage got nerfed. it's really, really hard to actually poke down Brom. And obviously with regeneration not being a thing anymore as well. And now with Brom getting second wind as well as like a counterpart the poke damage. This champion is just by far the best. His abilities are insanely busted. He's really good at engaging, disengaging, protecting your AD carry. It's just the best support. I mean, it's just hands down the best support. Kind of same with Kai'Sa. Just hands down the best AD carry and hands down the best support. Moving on to Janna. And obviously, as I said, Janna got nerfed in the patch. But she's still really, really strong. She still has insanely good disengage potential. And she still has really good lane pressure with her Tornado, with her ultimate. But she's not as good as I would say is Brum now. I would say they're kind of in both of their tier of their own. But Janna is still better than Lux, Nami, Alistar, Rakan, Leona, all these champions below. But yeah, she's still really, really strong. But moving on to the A and the B tier, the A tier, this is really, really hard to do, to be fair. A and B tier. I don't know if everyone would agree with this, but I don't really know. I've kind of put them in this order in terms of what I feel like is pretty strong, but it can be probably changed. Lux and Nami is still really, really good. They both got hit quite a bit from the regeneration removal of the rune. But Lux is still really, really strong with Harmonic Echo. Her shields are really, really strong. She still has insane damage and the same catch potential with the root, with the ultimate. Nami is still really good. She is probably one of the safest laning champions to play. You can walk up, use your second ability to heal yourself and to also hit it on the enemy champion. The wave is really good. The bubble's really good for catching. Still really good champion. Alistar is slowly moving back up the tier list. With Alistar now, obviously with regeneration being moved, Enchanter supports can't really poke Alistar as much, and you can kind of take advantage of them not having a lot of mana and kind of use that advantage and use that little bit of a time period that you have to engage with Alistar, especially with like a heavy early damage output AD carry, and really take advantage of like a Nami or a Lux if you play it well. Rakan as well. Rakan does really well with Xayah. She probably moves up into S, maybe S plus tier, to be fair, with Rakan. But he's still really, really strong. He got obviously buffed quite a bit in a recent patch in terms of magic resist, in terms of his passive shield, so it's still really, really strong. He can dive in, dive out. His ultimate's really good in team fights as well. Really, really nice champion, just not as good as the ones above. I still feel like Alistar's probably the best engaged support at the moment. And then Leona as well. Obviously, Leona got buffed again. The only problem I would say with Leona is that she's kind of single target focused. She's focused on being able to catch out the enemy off guard. But if you can, how can I explain it? If you can, catch someone off guard, or if you can get a huge massive team fight ultimate off, you could definitely do really well. Combo that with your third ability, and your first ability is really, really nice. Obviously, she struggles a bit in the laning phase to kind of engage onto a support, because most of the time they'll be playing range supports, and obviously if you play into a Brom like Alistar and Leona, is impossible to play into Brom, because as soon as you engage, you just get the stacks put on the Brom, and it's just really, really hard to play against. But Leona's like A, maybe down to B, I'm not too sure, but kind of mixed around. To be fair, all of these can move down to B and A. They can probably be switched around overall. Lulu, in terms of a solo queue pick, not really that strong, but if you play duo queue, probably one of the strongest supports if you play it with a hyper carry, as I explained with the AD carry tier list. Doesn't really offer that much in terms of being able to carry, but if you have a duo partner you can trust in, you can shield them, you can heal them, you can use your ultimate on them to give them more HP, you can give them attack speed and a movement speed buff, and you also have the slow from your first ability as well. So really good in terms of being able to enchant and be able to help your AD carry. But in terms of solo queue, not one of the best supports. Galio has been kind of rising up in priority in terms of supports. He kind of gets played in support a little bit, but not too much. I would still prefer Galio as a mid laner, but he can work as support. Really, really good at peeling your AD carry, especially with your ultimate. Really good at engaging as well with your ultimate and with your taunt as well with the dash. And actually does relatively well during laning phase. You can use your first ability to kind of poke down the enemies and kind of zone out the enemies as well. It's really hard to engage onto a Galio as well, especially if you have Aftershock. Seraphine, again, kind of similar to Galio. You've been seeing her a little bit in the support role. I still prefer Seraphine mid or Seraphine AD carry, as you have more gold to be able to get the items that you need to do a lot of damage. But she still does relatively well in terms of support, but she kind of needs more gold. She kind of needs to wait until she scales, get some more gold, and being able to, get enough damage to be able to pretty much carry the game, to be fair. Kind of the same with Sona in a way as well. You kind of need to make sure you have gold and play safe in the early game, and then once you get a few items, you're really, really strong. But Seraphine is definitely above Sona in terms of the tier list. And C tier is a bit of a tough one for supports. Sona probably does really well in terms of competitive. The Sona Seraphine bot lane is really, really good, but in solo queue, it's very hectic. It's very fast paced, so it's not as slow of a pace as competitive, so it's really, really hard to kind of take advantage of. Blitzcrank doesn't really have much to offer, just his hook, and that's pretty much it. There's not really much else to say about Blitzcrank. And then Soraka just doesn't really offer anything at all, just has a heal, and that's pretty much it, to be fair. But again, all these champions got affected a lot by regeneration as well, and it's really hard to kind of lane against the Brom as these champions. But yeah, that's pretty much my tier list. I kind of had to second record this because my voice was cutting out in the first recording a lot, so I kind of tried to cut it down a little bit. But if you do have any questions, let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.